how are we all? I have some great news. I found a C160 6-speed transmission for the All Motor GT. But it's going to take 2 weeks to get here. It's a 6-speed transmission. The gear sets are a lot shorter than a 5-speed, and it also has a 4.5 final drive, which will give a lot more acceleration than the other 5-speed. The synchro design is also a little bit different. It's designed for a high RPM shifting 4AGE, so that's really cool. So this is really going to bring the GT to life. And we've also got some new parts here today that I'm going to go through. So we've got a little vacuum box here, 6-port vacuum box. I'm going to explain why this computer's got a map sensor, and we've got a couple of adjustable rods. We've got a Starlet 4E standard manifold and a set of ITBs that are off a motorbike. I'm just going to use these for the explanation today. I want to explain why the 6-speed is going to make it faster. So you can hold that, Peter. I'm going to draw a little picture. So yeah, I don't know where the dyno sheet's gone. We'll have to print out another one. But I'm going to make this as simple as possible, so just hold that camera steady. Alright, so when you have a dyno graph, you have an axis like this. So you obviously have horsepower going up this way, and then this bottom one is RPM, or you can have wheel speed, but we'll just use RPM. So Starlet made 109.9 horsepower. And peak torque was around about 115 newton meters. Now on this scale we can have, say the maximum of the scale here can be 8,000, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1,000 RPM. So we'll draw this in now. I'm sure there's a much more complicated way to explain all this, but this is the way I understand it, and it's pretty simple. Okay, so each one of those bars here is 1,000 RPM. Now as for horsepower, if we set the maximum horsepower, say this is 150, and then we can have 125, 100, 75, 50, 25. So then we draw that in. Now when you're running the car up on the dyno, so obviously you won't start at 1,000 RPM, but when the car starts being loaded up, the graph goes something like this. So around 2,000 RPM, we're probably making around, say, 25 horsepower, 3,000 starts to make power. I'll draw in, so peak power is at 7,500, which I know is at 109.9 horsepower, so about here. But peak torque is at 6,600, and that's 115 newton meters. So we'll just say the horsepower and the newton meters is the same value, even though it's on the same side of the graph. So 115 newton meters. So let's say that's here. So we've got horsepower. It sort of lays over a little bit and then starts to climb, and then drops off. So right here is 109.9 horsepower. The torque comes on a little bit later, but then it climbs like this and starts to drop off. So when you're racing your car, should you be racing all the way to 7,500 where max horsepower is, or where the max torque is? So I've got a video that I'll play on here that shows me taking off from first gear, fanging it. I rev it right out to, say, 7,000 just for the demonstration, and then when you see when I change gear, you can see how far it drops back in the rev range. So using the actual dyno sheet, we can see exactly when you should change gear and when you're actually going to make the most amount of power for that gear change. The gearbox now revs right out to 7.5, and when I change gear, because of the final drive, it drops right back to about 4,500 RPM. If I've got the 6-speed in it, that means that when we're revving it right out, it's only dropping down near where the peak torque area is, and it keeps the engine back in its power band, so you're not sort of, you know, in the video I'm revving it like right out and then change gear and it's like brrr, then you're revving it right out again, next gear brrr, and then I rev third gear right out, it gets to 180, and then I go to shift into fourth gear and it drops so far out of that torque area the car just doesn't go any faster, it stops, it starts slowing down. You shift back to third, it's in that peak torque area, the car picks up speed and starts going faster again. So having that 6-speed and the shorter final drive is going to keep it in that power band. It'll accelerate faster, but then with that extra gear, it'll also have a bit more top speed too. Yeah, so we've been having some problems trying to do the tuning also on the ITV style. So here's a stock standard style of manifold, and it's got a map sensor port, which that goes to the ECU. And the ECU reads the map sensor and can do a calculation and helps to work out what fuel needs to go in there and so on. So this is a little bit different to the ITV setup that I've got on the GT, but it's a similar principle. So this has no vacuum ports to be able to go to the computer. So at the moment, we're only tuning TPS only. So it pretty much has a 2-dimensional map, which is, now I've learned, rubbish for tuning. So the map in this computer looks like this. We have percentage that the throttle's open, so it'd be like 0, 10, 20, 30, right up to 100%. And then we have RPM, so they go up 500 increments right up to 8,000. So it's a pretty basic way of tuning. So if we're trying to tune, you know, all the low end stuff and get it to idle, when you're actually in gear and you cruise along on the highway at 5% throttle at this RPM, it's all completely wrong and it doesn't work. Then you go and adjust it all in the top end again, and then the car doesn't idle. So you can either have one or the other. So solution to that, got this 6-port vacuum box off eBay for about $35 dues, and you can have the ITBs with an individual pipe on each one that goes to cylinder 1, 2, 3, 4. The 5th port then goes to the computer, and then we can have the power brakes hooked up as well, whereas at the moment there's no brake booster, so the brakes don't work. You're going to push it really hard for it to do anything. Yeah. So that's going to be really cool, and then that takes us back to like a 3-dimensional map for tuning, which will do the higher end, lower end, the idle. The computer will just understand a bit more about what's going on, so that's going to be cool. Also, this style of ITB, you can see that there's adjustable screws to open each one a little bit, like for fine tuning. The ITB system that I built doesn't have any sort of adjustability or anything. So these rods, these are just off eBay as well. So on my style of manifold, we hook these up, which makes each ITB individually adjustable. So that's going to be cool. Because at the moment there's just pretty much a flat plate in there and it doesn't do anything. If you want to adjust one ITB, it starts opening up the rest of them. Yeah. So you can't really... It works. If you still want to build a basic ITB setup, it works fine. But if we're trying to fine tune it and maximize the horsepower to what we're doing now, we need to have that spot on. So that'll be cool to compare if it actually makes a difference or not, but we'll soon see. And this famous vacuum pump. So this is the vacuum pump off the Ford Transit van. We need to make some brackets and things to get that on the side of the engine. Have I explained this to you yet?
No.
Okay, so vacuum pump, usually top of the rocker cover goes to an oil catch can. So this vacuum pump, the breather goes from the rocker cover to the back of this pump, and then comes out of here and goes to the breather, to the tank. So what it does is when the engine's spinning, it keeps the inside of the engine in a complete vacuum. So what that does, sucks the rings out a little bit to give a better ring seal.
Yep.
It also, because it's sucking inside the engine, if there's any minor oil leaks and stuff, it sucks them all back inside the engine, so no oil leaks. If you've got better ring seal, we should squeeze out a few more horsepower from that. And then if there are any fuel vapors and stuff, it's less chance for going in the oil because it's going to suck it straight out and go straight into the catch can. So yeah, every horsepower counts. I haven't known anyone that's tried this, but if this works for a braking system on like a larger van, then for this tiny engine it should be fine. So yes, we will soon see.